Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to model using two different techniques. One will be a box modeling technique. The other will just be through the attribute editor. Basically what we did for the bookshelf, except a little bit different. So the bookshelf is really square and blocky, whereas this object has much more roundness and shape. So let's go ahead and just get started. I'm going to begin modeling the blade, and in my attribute editor I'm going to first show you this technique. So I'm just going to scale this to fit, and you'll notice that in my side viewport or my front viewport, either or, you'll notice that it's covering the entire object, and I want to be able to see through this so I can see my reference. So one of the things I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to shading, and I'm going to do X-ray. And the other thing I'm going to do is shading it again, and then I'm going to do wireframe on shaded. So I have both of these on here, and I'm going to show you exactly why I have that on in a second. So on subdivisions height I'm going to go 8, and on depth I'm going to go 2, and on width I'm going to go 2. And that, having the wireframe on shaded, allows me to actually see the topology on there as I'm modeling it. Now you'll see without it on, I can no longer see any of that information. Once I select it, it highlights in green, but it's nice to be able to see it like so while I'm working on it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a few more subtle adjustments to this just to make it to fit a little bit better. And something like that should work. Now I don't really need to go off of both of these because they're both somewhat different. So I'm going to put it also in my side viewport. I'm going to put wireframe on shaded and X-ray on. This way I can see through it there. And really that with this side reference, whichever one you're primarily using, in this case I've been using the front. Let's see. So that's making it thin. So I'm going to make it much thinner here. Oh, whoop. I want to do this way. So you'll notice in this viewport that it's getting much thinner. Not a big deal because I'm going to use the front as my primary reference. The side is really, to have the same image in both sides is a little bit redundant, but it was just really for practice. And also, it depends on how I do the handle. So the next thing I'm going to do in here is I'm going to go to Edge, and I'm going to double click on an edge, and that should highlight the entire thing. So if I just click on one, and then I double click down here, that's one way to select an entire edge. If I just double click it, it will highlight the entire edge also. So that's another way to select an entire edge. The benefit of doing it this way, where you select one and then double click, is it will stop at that point where you double click, whereas on this one, if you just double click, it will highlight the entire edge. And that's exactly what I want for this reference. And then I'm going to just tap R for my scale, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring these in. And then I think that's pretty good. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enter my vertex mode, and I'm just going to select the top one, just that top vertice. I'm going to go to my front viewport, and I'm going to tap F to zoom in so I can see exactly what I'm looking at, and just go ahead and drag that up. And now I've got my blade with a point. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to show you how to do the same thing except through box modeling. And this is really as simple as it gets as far as demoing how to do this. Basically what you're going to do, I'll start just to get the same type of width will be 2 and 2. And I'm not going to do any subdivisions in height because those are going to be the ones that I'm going to be I'm going to box model in. Now this is such a common method to modeling, and I'm just trying to get a decent start on a shape. Something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select these faces, and you can select them all one at a time, or here's a quick little shortcut for selecting something like this. If I just select all these, you'll notice these get selected as well, but I'm going to hold shift and deselect these. So it's just I find it to be a fast way to select things. It's like select and deselect, especially instead of just clicking and clicking and clicking around. You'll find it really useful for something like a cylinder, where instead of pressing and selecting every single one of these, if you just go like so and then deselect, you select it much more quickly. Anyway, back to the shape here for the blade. I'm going to do my little select and deselect, and then I'm just going to run an extrude and drag up. And I'm going to do this using my front viewport. And I'm going to show you a quick keyboard shortcut also. If you press G, it's last tool used. And I don't need to do this so many times, but there we go. And now I have the same thing done an entirely different way. And really it's just a preference on how you like to model. For this one, and you'll notice that these edges down here look different than this, and I'm going to show you why. If you hold shift and hold right click, soften edge and soften edge, you'll notice it all becomes soft. And if I do harden edge, soften and harden edge, everything becomes this hard pointy edge. So I'm going to just go for soft edge for now. And if I were totally done with this, maybe this edge and this edge, maybe I make just these ones hard, so it gives it that more of a sleek look to the blade itself. So that's hold shift, hold right click, soften edge. It's soften harden edges, and then soften edges. And if you really want, you can do, that's fine, harden edge, just for the outer ones. So I like this one. I'm going to go with this one to continue building with, but I just wanted to quickly show you what box modeling is. It is super useful, so, and we will be covering more of it as the semester goes on. There we go. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build in the next section, and I feel like starting with the handle will be the easiest. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a cylinder, and in my attribute editor we don't need all of those all that topology. That's way too much. So we're going to break this down, and we're going to go down to 8 on subdivision on axes, and I'll give it, I don't know, 4 on height. And for here, I'm going to just simply scale it into place. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these vertices, just the ones on top, and using my center scale tool, I'm going to start to scale all this stuff in so it fits just a little bit better and cleaner. And I'm using the center one because I want it to all scale uniformly to keep that cylindrical look. And this one I can soften edge and soften edge. So another point I'm going to ignore that sort of loop. I think it'll be a little bit more difficult to do, but if you wanted to do something like that, I will show you. There is the torus here. It's like the donut basically. And then we would just change this to like 8 and 8, and then scale, and then you have scale it into place, and the radius, you can adjust the radius of it, and section radius, so you can make the hole bigger or smaller, or the tube thicker, and then you can even twist it. So just some cool things, but I'm not going to use that. I think it's going to be much easier for everyone to follow along with a sphere, so we're going to just click on a sphere. And then in the attribute editor with this one, we don't need all that geometry also, so 8 and 8 works perfectly. And then I'm going to bring this down and just about to there. I'm going to tap F on my keyboard to zoom quickly in, and I'm just giving it sort of that base to the handle. Now the last section I have left on this is the I don't know, the handguard, I guess you call it. So the way I'm going to build this one, I can go about this so many different ways, and I'm just going to start with a cube. I find that this might be the easiest way to do it, and I'm just going to bring it down a little bit, and I could do it like this, and then in my attribute editor, go to polycube, 3, I think 5 might be pretty good. And if I want to get really into it, I'll go 7. I think 7 actually might work just a little bit better. In here, I'm going to show you by selecting, double-clicking on this, it's going to select that entire edge loop. And I'm going to hold shift and select this one as well. And I'm going to bring these in just to the point where the blade starts right here. I'm only going to worry about one side, so I'm not too worried about the other side. And as a matter of fact, actually, I'm going to take and make it 8 instead, actually. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm only going to line it up to the one side, and I'm just going to go to about here. And now, for this, in my edge, I'm just going to select here, and here, and I'm going to bring these down. And if I need to, maybe bring it in just a little bit to get that first initial curve. And now I'll go ahead and bring it down. And I'm going to bring this one to about here. And then I'm just going to move these down as well. And last but not least, like so. Alright, so there is my sword. I could go ahead and, if I wanted, I could basically build this the other way as well. But for this purpose, I find that this will be fine. I don't want it to get too complicated, and I'm going to turn the grid off just for the moment, just to give you a look-see at what this may look like. And I'm going to do that soften harden edge again, just for appearance sake. While the rest of them are sort of have that soft edge. So there's my sword, and I can even bring this in just a bit more. And I think that's a pretty good start for it. If you do have any questions, just be sure to shoot me a message. I did cover the box modeling technique, so just to go ahead and show you, if I were to box model this part, what I could do is instead, I'll select like this side, and I'll run an extrude, and I'm going to scale them out, and I don't know, something like that. And then from here, I could basically do the same exact thing, and I'm just kind of giving you a rough idea where we have something similar in shape. I wasn't going too concerned with it, but that's basically how we would box model that part. Same thing with the handle. You could, in essence, box model the handle, starting with a cylinder, um, but for the handle, it's just a little bit quicker and easier for it to be to do it in the attribute editor. But just for demonstration, I'll show you really quickly how you could go about modeling this. I'll go to my face, and I'm going to do that quick little select and deselect. I might even extrude that out a little bit. And then I'm going to press the extrude tool and bring this down and scale it out a little bit, because it starts to get a little wider as we come through. And then I can come down again. I'm just tapping G on the keyboard for last tool used, which is the extrude in this case, and then down to here. And you'll see that I just sort of quickly ran through and just box modeled a little handle on here. And then just bring that over here somewhere. So you get the idea. The sphere I would not box model ever. That's not even. I would just start with a sphere on that. But a lot of the other stuff you can, and it's really a technique that I use very, very often. So anyway, in the next video, I'm going to show you a little bit more in depth on modeling the sword. For the submission, just be sure to you can submit just your Maya file if you'd like. If you do submit a screenshot, be sure to just make sure that you have wireframe on shaded on, and make sure that I can see it in all 4 viewports. So anyway, that's modeling the sword. I hope that was useful for you, and we're going to continue working on this sword, but basically what the major thing to do when modeling something like this is to just break everything down by shape. So I now have the blade, and then I've got this handle, or handguard, and then the handle, and then this, and soften edges. So that's the start of our sword, and we're going to expand on this in future labs. So again, message me if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.